Good morning. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to this week's edition of Not Your Normal Healthpreneur. I am your not so normal host, Benita Amos, working to be a healthy gorilla. Not Your Normal Healthpreneur is a weekly show for health practitioners who are looking to start and grow their natural health business. The show aims to help these businesses increase their exposure and reach, to better help their clients, and thus increase their income. Our intent is to connect like-minded health practitioners, to share knowledge and strategies, to inspire newbies and wannabes to accept the call to action, to encourage collaboration and cooperation among all health practitioners as we continue to create the health modalities of choice for the future. We are keen to help these practitioners gain more clients, to grow their business, to acquire more tools to help more people, and in the process to give people education and insight into some of the natural modalities that are available out there, and where they might turn to for help as an alternative to settling for mediocre health or resorting to the standard medical invasive procedures that are the norm today, or the taking of pharmaceuticals with their potentially harmful side effects. Ultimately, we want to show how challenging the current healthcare system can work to create more profits by helping more people. So it's a win-win for everyone. Now, my guest this week is Jenna Kelland. Jenna is, let me get this right, a certified holistic nutritional consultant with a passion for sharing her knowledge. So welcome, Jenna.
Thanks, Benita. It's great to be here.
Nice. So let's start with talking about your current business. What services and products are you currently offering?
All right, my business is Spark Wellness, and I'm doing a lot of one-on-one coaching right now because I find that's a good way to help people with customized solutions that are unique to their situation. That's one thing I do. I'm also doing lots of workshops. I like speaking to groups and getting people thinking about what they eat, how it affects their mood and their energy, what practical changes they can make in their current diet or food, and how that can make a difference overall for themselves and their family.
Nice. A couple of things there, like you talk about individual. I'm such an advocate for individual solutions, right? Because too often in our world nowadays, it's almost like a one size fits all solution, and that's not really how nutrition works, is it?
No, it's not with nutrition. Our bodies are, unique by a lot. Biochemically unique. Things that help one person may not be as helpful for another. But the other thing I look at is I kind of take a really holistic approach. So I look at things like, what's your lifestyle? Have you got 3 kids to get up and off to school in the morning? Are you grabbing lunch on the go? Do you have easy access to fresh whole foods, or do you need some support in finding those products? So yeah, I'm able to really customize right to where people are at right now, and then to help them take their next steps.
Yes. And that was actually something we talked about once upon a time too, was the whole meeting people where they're at, right? Because a lot of times we think, oh, I have this terrible diet and I have so far to go, and it's like I don't even know where to start. And so if I come to see you, I don't want you to tell me all of a sudden that I need to completely change everything that I'm doing, because that's going to overwhelm me, right?
Right. I say it's not extreme makeover for your diet. I really believe in incremental, sustainable changes. So little changes, one at a time, and they kind of add up over time. They start to have that snowball effect.
Indeed, they do. So tell me, and I know we touched on this a little bit, and I love your take on it, because I know that psychology plays a big role in your practice. But how is it that food education and choices actually play into health, or a health practice, if you will?
Yeah, I think that, in general, what we eat affects how we feel, right? When we're eating well and nourishing our bodies well and getting the nutrients we need, that affects how we feel. That affects how we perform in the world, whether it's, going to school, whether it's interacting with other people, or whether it's, more athletic or fitness type activities. So, our food really affects how we are in the world, our energy, our mood, our ability to kind of connect with people. All of that's affected.
Well, and that's really interesting, because I think there's such a disconnect nowadays, right? Like we go and we have fast food for lunch, and then we go back to work, and then we start falling asleep around 2:30, 3 o'clock, and we haven't made that connection.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the tools I use is a 3-day food journal, and clients have been really surprised with how looking at what they eat for 3 days, we can start to see patterns and trends they hadn't noticed before. And people are like, oh yeah, I can see how that works. I can see that with just 3 days of looking at their diet. Like we don't have to do a great deep analysis. It just, starting to see those patterns, people can then start to change them. And as you said, many people aren't aware of those connections. They don't recognize that what they eat makes a difference. And that sometimes it's not what you eat just in your last meal, but it's what you've eaten over the last week and such as well, right? It's cumulative.
Yes, it is. And yet, having said that, it's like I know back in the day I used to take a sandwich for lunch because that was like a standard lunch.
Hmm.
Right? I typically don't eat sandwiches at lunch, mostly because I find I struggle with wheat. And so if I eat a sandwich, yeah, a couple of hours later, I'm ready for a nap. Instead, if I have a salad or a bunch of veggies and some other snacks at lunch, there is no mid-afternoon, I'm going to fall asleep feeling that comes over me.
Right. Yeah, it makes such a difference when you've got the right food. Your energy stays consistent throughout the day. You don't have those highs and lows. You don't have those cravings. You don't get that hangry, hungry, angry situation. And, as a mom, that also leaves you better able to support your kids, right? Because chances are they're crashing at the same time as you are. So, if you can make that consistent, it kind of makes it easier for everybody to deal with those times.
So let's talk about the catalyst. What got you down this road? What got you started down this road?
I think that's been a long-term interest. Like I remember back when I was, probably in high school and junior high, I had just my stomach never felt good. I
Mm,
don't know why. I don't know what it was, but I was always not feeling physically great. And it was a time where you ate what you were told, and sometimes I'd say I don't want to eat that. It doesn't feel good, but there wasn't a lot of room for flexibility and making other choices. So when I went to university, I started experimenting with my food because I was living on outside. I wasn't living at home anymore. I had more choice. So I tried vegetarian. I tried, different diets to try and figure out what was going on with my stomach. Um, and it took a long time, um, but eventually, years and years later, I figured out that for me, wheat was also a problem. I found that when I took that out, a lot of my digestive stuff improved. And so, but I also found I was spending a lot of time. That's what I did for fun, was read about nutrition, read about
mm.
food, read about health. So when my kids were all in school and I decided, I was looking for something new. I have a background in adult education. I have a PhD in education, but I was getting tired of teaching other people how to teach. I wanted to teach something I was excited about. So I decided at that point when my kids were in school to go back to school myself. So I did my diploma in holistic nutrition. And now I'm adding to that, I'm doing a certificate in nutritional psychology, which is looking at the connections between what you eat and how you feel.
Well, and that's I mean, I know we're all looking for instant gratification, but you talk about what you eat and how you feel, and you can see a difference in as little as 3 days. That's maybe not instant, but that's pretty darn close to instant.
Yeah, I think people can start to see changes. I've worked with clients and they've said, you know what, it's been a week or one appointment and I'm already seeing a difference. Making some small changes, people don't even recognize that little changes can make a difference. And I think that's where we start. That's my approach. We start with small, sustainable changes. Maybe it's drinking enough water. Maybe it's adding another fruit or vegetable. Maybe it's cutting back on something that could be problematic, like wheat, if that's something that bothers somebody, is cutting back on it and helping them find some alternatives.
Well, it's interesting because, like you, it's like my road to health has been very long.
Mhm.
And so you learn a lot along the way. But again, I think that's maybe where some of the understanding comes in, that it is, and that's kind of like anything in life, right? Life is often a series of small incremental changes. And you wake up one day and you go, oh, I feel better. But it's not like that happened overnight. It happened over a very long period of time and a lot of trial and error and a lot of investigation, right?
Yeah, I think change happens over time, and making new habits takes time as well, right?
Yes. But the thing is, it's like if you really feel better, that's a huge motivating factor to make those changes, right?
Yes, yeah. And I encourage people, I don't say this is what you must do, but I say, hey, let's try. Let's see what happens if you go without coffee, or if you cut back on sugar, or you don't take a sandwich for lunch, whatever it might be. Let's try it for a week and see how you feel.
Right.
And then they get to make the choice because, they see if it makes a difference for them and how much, they're motivated to continue that.
Well, and ultimately, if people want to make a difference in in their lives, ultimately they have to own it, right? Because
Mhm.
these are their own choices.
Yeah, that's right. I can give them the tools and the support and, the strategies to make it fit within their lifestyle. But yeah, ultimately people have to choose to do that and to continue those habits over time. But as a coach, I'm there to support that and
Right.
help when it gets tough and encourage and to be there to celebrate when it goes well.
Well, and with your background and your education, I can see how that would be really beneficial though too, because it's like if I'm struggling with something and we're looking at my diet, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to say, well, what about this item? What about this item, right? Because a lot of people, if they haven't done the educate or the investigation, the research, and they don't have the education, they may not be aware of what might be triggering whatever their issues are.
Right. Yeah. And that's again where I say like taking a food journal can help. We can start to see some of those patterns. And yeah, I can look at, okay, so you've got challenges, mental health is one of the areas I really focus on. And we're learning more and more about how the gut health and what you eat and digestion and such is so closely linked to your mood and mental health. So I can say, okay, let's start there. Yeah, we can deal with, both the digestive issues we've always had and the mood challenges. We can look at both of those and, some strategies are going to affect both because whatever we do really is holistic. It affects your whole body. You
Yeah.
just might not see, it might not target what you expected, but you'll still see benefits.
Yes. And it's sometimes hard to make that correlation between cause and effect. And yet you're right. It's like, I mean, everything we put in at some point affects us, right? Either good, bad, or yes, otherwise. So what would you say? I know you talked about mental health here, but is that your specific challenge, or what are the challenges that you work with with most of your clients in your business?
Yeah, I work a lot with mental health, but many people say, well, I've never been diagnosed with depression, but I don't have energy. I feel overwhelmed. I'm stressed. I feel like I'm burnt out. So, I don't just use the language of mental health, but I deal often with busy moms, busy women who are trying to balance kids and family and work and all of those things. And often they end up at the bottom of the list. And, I know from personal experience, in order to support my family, I have to look after myself. I kind of have to have that foundational piece before everything else will fall into place. So yeah, I work a lot with that. And sometimes it works beyond the mom or such and the whole family, but sometimes I work just with her and say, hey, here's some suggestions, while you're adding more vegetables to your diet, how about we add some to your kids or
Mm.
such.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I know, like you talked about this earlier, and I've seen a couple of these where you share the tips and strategies, right? Like the whole thing, you say busy mom, and it's like, oh my goodness, how do I possibly put together something that's healthier for my family, be it snacks, meals, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I look at that and as I said, I look at small changes so that people don't get overwhelmed with, okay, we're gonna, completely change everything you eat. It's gonna be small things like, okay, how can we add another serving of vegetables to a meal?
Mhm.
How can we make sure you're getting enough water throughout the day so you're hydrated? Yeah, can we switch out a lower fiber product for something that's got a little more fiber? Can we make sure you're getting enough protein in your meals so your energy stays up throughout the day? It's looking at those kind of things that make a difference. And then, as I said, adding other things, we have the snowball effect. Okay, so we've got more energy now. You've got a feeling like you can cook something. Let's see what we can prepare for a meal. Can we do some meal prep ahead of time? And I always tell people, what's the time of day that's best for you, right? Like if you've got lots of time in the morning, let's work on breakfast.
Right.
If you're taking lunch to work and you could prepare it in the evening after the kids are in bed, so you've got more time, let's work on lunch first. So
Right.
again, looking at where people have the time and the resources and the energy to start making changes, not at those toughest,
Yes.
points of the day. Let's give you some support. Let's get you feeling great before we tackle those things.
Yes. Let's not have you coming home at 5:30 and you have half an hour to prepare a meal, and let's make all these changes then and there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What's interesting, because the One Health Coach program that I took, they talked about the whole concept of, instead of diets, they talk about crowding out, right? So on your
Yes.
plate, exactly what you were talking about, you add in another vegetable. So it's not about what you're taking away, it's about what you're adding in. And by extension, if you're adding in another vegetable, there's a good chance that something else that maybe not quite as healthy simply gets moved over to the side and yeah, moved out, right? Which ultimately is very beneficial.
Right, yeah. If you're adding more vegetables, then you're maybe having smaller portions of something else.
Right.
Maybe you're finding you're full enough so you don't need to eat something you usually had. And I always encourage, fruits and vegetables for snacks, because when you are hungry, grab something that's really going to feed you instead of maybe the quickest source of energy, which we often, reach for sweets or candy or coffee with sugar or something like that to boost our energy. This is a time to have some fruits and vegetables so you're getting that nutrition.
Well, that's what I find is like I love apples, but I don't like I like apples cut up, right? So
Me too.
I'll cut one up in the morning and then I've got it sitting there. So when I need something to snack on, there it is, right? So there's no I need to go find something to eat. It's already there and it's good for me.
Yeah, and that's part of it too, is making things available and easy. So, yeah, things that are finger food that you can grab easily, we're more likely to snack on that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there's a whole psychology behind it, and I'm curious in exploring that and looking at, but how we change habits. And they talk about how marketers have figured out that whatever is at eye level in the store, you're most likely to buy. Same thing's true in your fridge. Put the healthy food at eye level so you can see it first thing when you open the fridge. Don't stick the healthy food at the back of the crisper drawer where you have to, open things up and dig around to find it. Put it right there where you can grab it and go.
Or worse yet, where it gets lost.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's liquid.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, make it easy.
That's actually a really good. I never thought of it like that because I knew that about the grocery stores, right? Like yes, the eye level, but I never thought about it so much like in my cupboards or in my fridge. But that's a really good point because that's where you automatically start, right?
Yeah, and they say, if you're the kind of person who craves chocolate, put it where it's hard to get. Either don't have it in your house, or if you feel like you need to manage that craving, put it at the back of the top shelf where you need to get a chair out to get it, because thinking of the effort you have to go through, you're like, oh, it's probably just going to be easier to grab a piece of fruit or something, right? So when you make it more challenging for yourself to have something that's a sometimes food, then you're less likely to reach for it.
Good point. That would be really interesting when you talk about like the psychology of food. I could see getting lost in that for a long time.
Yeah, I'm starting to explore some of that, and even the stuff around how we make habits and how we start to change our habits and change the way we do things, because usually our habits are here for a reason. They're
Oh,
comfortable, they make us feel safe, they make us feel like we understand or have some control over the world. So changing habits can actually, sometimes it will actually trigger kind of a stress response.
right.
So when we can kind of do it gradually without triggering that, it makes a difference. And then we're not opposed to it and saying, oh, this is disrupting my life, this is adding stress, this is upsetting the balance.
That's really interesting, and it totally makes sense. Yes, because the whole concept of change is always we're always afraid, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think we kind of covered this, the challenges that you help your clients overcome. So when you talk about things like helping them with meal planning, or the whole, I love the idea of people may not use the word I'm depressed or the words I'm depressed, but in essence, it's almost in that sense that they are struggling with mood, if you will, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So instead of saying you need to have a diagnosis, someone has to have labeled you this way, you know what, we can help with your mood and we can help with your energy and all the things related to that. So yeah, I don't use a lot of the words of depression and such, but yeah, it's people who have low energy, low mood, who feel they're worried all the time, stressed, overwhelmed, burnt out. Those are a lot of the things I hear, exhausted, those are the words I hear rather than specific diagnoses. Yeah.
And I like that too, because one of the trainings that I was at, there was somebody who was talking about if we use the words I am, a lot of times that's how we identify ourselves instead of the I feel, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
instead of identifying with that, it's like I feel like this, and what can I do to overcome this? So we don't get stuck in our stories so much.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, being careful about how you label yourself and see yourself. Language is so important as well.
It's quite interesting. I imagine it's quite interesting working with you because there'd be a lot of those things that would come up all of a sudden. Maybe
Yeah,
not.
Yeah, I think, people are like, oh, never thought of that, and maybe sometimes it's just getting people to think about things a little bit differently.
Well, really, in terms of people changing people's or helping people to see their own mindset, yes, that's really what it is. Is a lot of times you can't change how you think about something until you actually understand that you're thinking about it in that way, right?
Yeah, we have all these ingrained ideas and such. And I often talk about people, especially when it comes to food, that food is about way more than just nourishment. Like
Mhm.
if food was just about feeding ourselves and about making sure we have energy and such, my job, I wouldn't need a job. Everybody would just eat what was best for them, right? But food is about our traditions and our culture and our family and our history, and it's about our social situations, how we go out with people, how we enjoy ourselves, how we reward ourselves. And then you get into its political and economical, and all of these different things are all part of that. Plus there's the whole marketing piece out there to make us,
Yes,
making the food scientist whose job it is to make things as appealing as possible, and the marketers doing their job. So there's all these different things going on that are not just about nutrition.
right.
So
Yeah.
we have to consider that there's a big picture going on. And if it was just about what's the best food for you, it would be easy. People would know what to eat, but it's complex.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The conditioning is a big piece of it. We need somebody like you being a food scientist for the masses. Really, right?
Yeah, I guess not likely it would happen because I'm more interested in just eating food in its natural state, right?
Yes. But I'm just saying, it's like if,
Yeah.
if we can change or when we can start to shift that mentality, then we're actually making progress in terms of helping people.
Yeah.
Okay, so what gives you the most joy or excitement in your business? What are some of your big wins that you've seen?
Well, I like, people saying, yeah, I can do this. This is manageable, or I've made this change, and what's next, right? People who are seeing progress and excited about it. And the unexpected things. I worked with a family with a daughter in kindergarten who seemed to be struggling.
Yes.
And the little kid at 5 said, you know what? I can write all my letters without looking at the board now. And when I color, it stays in the lines. You know, even at 5, she noticed that there was a difference. Now, she didn't know all the nutrition stuff we were doing and our plan and all the background things to look at that. But, she noticed the difference and was able to even articulate what was different after we made these changes.
So in other words, then you're settling down some of the disruption or discomfort that she was feeling internally.
Yeah, we were looking at supporting, we did an elimination diet to see if there were foods that were just making her not feel well, right? I think we have that. If you've got a tummy ache, if you've got a headache, if you just feel achy or tired, kids don't know how to express that, but it comes out in their behavior and such as well. So,
Well, that's awesome because that's a non-medicinal way of helping children
yeah.
over the long term or for the long term. So for others starting out in your line of business, do you have words of wisdom, some tips on how to get started? Besides doing the long and well-traveled journey that you've gone through.
Yeah, I think one of the things I wish I'd figured out early on was to really narrow and focus my niche. And it's great to try and help everyone with everything, but figuring out what I wanted to work on and such was, I think, has been a really important piece to that, because it lets me focus. It lets me become an expert or very confident and knowledgeable in one area, and it lets me communicate to the people who are looking for that.
Right. And I think most of us, yeah, I think that would be good if most of us were looking for that.
Yeah, I think we want to help, right? That's where we start. We want to help people,
Yes.
and then it's okay. Well, you know your message is too broad. You're trying to do everything and be everything.
Yeah.
So, narrowing down and focusing, I think, was one of the biggest, most important, helpful tools I figured out along the way.
Yes. So do you collaborate with other practitioners? Do you have plans for collaboration? What's in the future there?
Yeah, I'm currently doing some workshops with a local counseling office. So they've got some space and they're sharing some of my resources, and some of their clients are coming to these workshops on food mood connections. So we've done just a general mental health and gut health and how they're related. We've done one on cravings. The next one coming up is about mindful eating and such. So yeah, I'm doing some collaboration there, which I think is a good fit. because, they're promoting the emotional well-being side, and then I can provide some support. And also I've been, as I share information, and they're learning as well, so they can support their clients as well. But I definitely, like working with other people. And I know my area really well, but there's so many other areas and so many people who have expertise that can complement what I do.
It'd be nice to see you doing like a roving lunch and learn at businesses all across the city, because if you think about this, it's like people are going to work, and again, they're having a lunch that maybe isn't something that their body is, necessarily easily handling. If you could change what people are eating at lunchtime and how they feel in the afternoon, how is that not a win for the business and the people, right?
Yeah, that kind of thing is great. I'd love to work with like teachers and early childhood educators or anything like that, because they need the support for themselves. They're in super stressful jobs with lots of demands and such, but also, then it can have that trickle down effect as they make changes. They're better able to support the kids they're working with, and, they can share some of that as well. So I'd love to work in those areas as well with, people who help other people, because, what you learn, you can pass on.
Yes, well, and that's the whole thing, right? It's like the whole ripple effect. I mean, that's what we're trying to affect with what we're doing, right? Is we want to touch people enough so that even if they don't completely understand it, they're at least motivated to start looking elsewhere, right?
Yeah, start asking questions, get curious, and find what's going to work for them.
Nice. So how do you currently market your business? Are you seeing a lot of success, or you got other things in the works for marketing?
I'm currently working on doing some website revamping, and I've got some exciting new ideas coming up there. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. I'm doing some, as I said, live workshops and such, and trying to be consistent about social media and sharing in those ways. So, trying to find that way that connects the best with the people I want to work with. And it's an experiment, and it's a process. And, sometimes it clicks really well, and sometimes it feels like you're going on and on. But they always say, it takes lots of connection with someone before they're ready to work with you. So.
Well, and especially over the years, the conditioning that we've received through conventional media has been a very different message. So yes, I think there's a lot of repetition and a lot of rehashing of the same concepts in order for people to finally go, oh, wait a minute, that actually, I do get that. That does make sense, right?
Yeah, you have to present things that make sense and are relevant and such to people, and show them how it connects to their lives and how they can use that information practically. Yeah.
Yes, because we all are very much, because people say, oh, it's like all about you. And it's like, in our lives, everything we do is actually about us.
Yeah.
Because we see the world from our own standpoint. So it's like, yes, how is that going to help me? Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. People need to know how to take even what they hear in the conventional media, even what the food guide says, or what they read in an article somewhere. Well, how do I actually use that? Like, I know I should eat less sugar. I know I should eat better, whatever that means. People know that. People generally understand that, there are healthier choices they could make, but where do you start and how do you change that?
I'd be interested to know what your standard diet is. What your view of a standard diet is.
Well, for me or for other people or such, I get a lot of information from my kids. Everybody else eats this, right?
Oh, yes.
I get a lot of that from, they let me know what processed and packaged foods are every other kid is eating. In fact, one of my daughter's friends, a mom came up to me and said, oh, my daughter was saying that the kids at school were saying, oh, you have a Sarah lunch. And I said, well, what's a Sarah lunch? And they said, oh, well, that's because your daughter Sarah always has healthy lunches. So the kids have started calling, if you have a healthy lunch, it's a Sarah lunch. And I said, okay, I see that as a good thing.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so I know we touched briefly on it, but what are you seeing for the future of your business?
I'd like to do a little more group education stuff, because I think we can learn from each other and with each other, and by sharing our experiences and recognizing we're not in this alone. So yeah, I'd like to do some more group courses and that kind of thing over time, because these are not things you can just change in one
Right.
one step. So, maybe come January, people are always looking for improving their health, New Year's resolutions, those kind of things. But yeah, maybe starting some kind of a group at that point. And again, I'd like to do more, as I said, workshops and such for people who help other people who are in jobs where they are experiencing stress and need support to look after themselves, and where that can, have a ripple effect.
That's exciting. I know people would say I'm a nerd for that too, but to me that's exciting because
Yeah.
it's like if you can help people feel better, how is that not exciting? How is that not?
Exactly. And it changes what they do from there too, right? They can make more of a difference. Or I
Yeah.
worked with a teacher who said, I go back to school. We met at the end of August. She's like, I go back to school. I teach junior high and I go back to school, and always within a few weeks, I start out with all this energy and enthusiasm, and within a few weeks, I've either gotten sick or I'm tired or the stress is getting to me. And she said, you know what, after working with you, I can see this year is going to be different. She felt that she had some skills and such, and some ideas and strategies so that she could, look after herself better, so that she could keep up that enthusiasm and support her students. So
Maybe one of your products needs to be something called the Sarah lunch.
yes. Here's your lunch. I will make it for you. Yeah.
Or at least guide you to what, like this is a
Yeah.
right?
Well, I do have, one of the tools I have for families is a template that helps you and your kids pick your lunch. So here's some proteins ideas. Here's some whole grain or healthy or high fiber carbs. Here's a fruit. Here's a vegetable. Here's a treat, and here's a beverage. And so, parents can use it to say, okay, have I covered all the areas? And kids, I've got a visual one and a text-based one. So kids can go and say, my suggestion is put it in a plastic folder. Kids can go and circle, or you can do matching. Okay, I'm putting an apple on the fruit place, but I don't have anything on the vegetable place. What can I put on the vegetable spot? So yeah, getting parents and kids talking about that and how they can make those changes, and recognizing all the pieces that go into a healthy meal.
I like that because again, if you start with kids quite young, I mean that becomes their norm
Yeah.
reality, right? So it's not like, and again, the whole concept of diet is very much one of restriction or denial, right? Or right, taking
Hmm.
away. Whereas if you're teaching kids that this is what a healthy lunch is, there's no sense of I'm punishing myself. This is what I'm doing for myself.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you can also start to teach kids to pay attention to how you feel. Yeah, you're going to your friend's birthday and you want to have a bunch of treats. And okay, so let's just talk about afterwards how you feel. Because kids need to recognize that as well, because they're going to have to continue to make their own decisions, right? The older they get, the more choice they have. And so, giving them those skills as well is really helpful. Yeah.
Yes, and I was talking to somebody last week too. I said, it's not like I always make good food choices. But a lot of times if I'm making a choice to eat something that I know is not necessarily good for me, I'm making that choice consciously. And I know that, well, if I suffer for it afterwards, or if I have, don't feel as well, I know that, but I'm willing to live with that.
Right. Yeah. I like chocolate. I like Christmas cookies, right? I'm going to enjoy those and recognize that this is, maybe not the thing that's going to best nourish my body, but it's part of celebrating with my family. And I
Yes.
enjoy that. And that's important too.
Yes.
I talk to my kids about sometimes foods, right?
Yes.
We don't need to have sweets and treats every day, but sometimes, yeah, when we go camping, if we're going to make s'mores, we're going to enjoy them, right? But that doesn't mean we have marshmallows every day in our cereal for breakfast.
So Fruit Loops aren't a healthy breakfast then?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, when
I think I saw that once. It was like, oh, I don't know who's swallowing that.
someone told me once, well, I don't do smoothies, but I make my kids lots of milkshakes, and that's kind of the same thing. I
Oh,
thought, oh, maybe not, but
yeah, milk is something I gave up a long time ago. That's something that doesn't really agree with me. At least dairy milk, right?
yeah. Well, and there's so many varieties of products that you can substitute now that it doesn't have to be a big loss in your diet. There's lots of other options for the nutritional value and just to fill that space. Mhm.
So, who would you say has been a real source of inspiration for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, Recently, as I said, I've been interested in the nutritional psychology area, and I can't name someone off the top of my head who's in that area specifically, but people like Dr. Hyman, who's done the Broken Brain series. I don't think he'd identify himself with that group necessarily, but people who are looking at that healthy brains, healthy guts, healthy mood, how that's all related. I'm
Yes.
really enjoying that area and exploring that area a lot right now.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I eat that up. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, I can get caught up in doing research and reading and learning. I have to say, okay, now what am I going to do with this to make this useful to someone else? Because I really find it exciting, but maybe not everybody wants to get quite so deep into this as I do.
No, but the thing is, the fact that you understand all of that makes you much more valuable to your clients, because even if they don't understand it or need to understand it, it gives you a better place from where to coach them from.
Yeah, and with my educational background, one of the things I do particularly well is explain things to people. So I can take, complex things and make them simpler or more relevant to people's lives. So, yeah.
Well, that's good for those of us who don't have all of that background, right? Because otherwise you'd be.
I can do that too, yeah.
Well, maybe there's a place for that sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell people how they can get in touch with you then.
All right. My website, which is going to be newly launched here in a few weeks, is sparkwellness.ca. There's stuff there now. It's not empty, but there'll be a new exciting website coming up. So sparkwellness.ca, or I'm on Facebook, and my Facebook page is Spark Wellness Nutrition. And so, yeah, those are great ways to get in touch. And then both of those have ways to contact me, individually from there if you want to learn more about what I do.
Nice. I'm excited for you in the future. This is like this. I find this quite fascinating myself. The whole concept of what you eat is how you feel.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, people are recognizing that and starting to make some connections. And, it's sometimes sporadic, and sometimes we try for a while and then realize, oh, I've gone back to old habits. But I think when we can start to be a little more mindful of what we eat, a little more aware of how food affects us, we start to have control and we can make conscious choices.
Yes, actually, that's a really good point. Well, thank you very much, Jenna. This was awesome.
Great. Well, thanks. It was great to talk with you, Benita. I love chatting about this stuff, and finding someone who's just as excited and interested about it is great.
Yes, I'm kind of a nerd that way too. I don't have a background, but it's just fascinating to listen to. And like I say, especially for the potential benefits for people are like incalculable, really. They're huge.
Yeah, and it's great to, start those conversations so people say, oh, well, maybe I hadn't thought about that. Let's see what that might do, how that could change what I do. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Jenna, for joining us this week. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for sharing all of your knowledge. Like I say, I'm quite intrigued by what you're doing. And then also thank you to everybody for joining us for this week's show. As always, we appreciate your feedback. If you enjoyed the show, please spread the love and tell your friends. If you have suggestions for someone you'd like to see on the show, please email me at benita@thehealthygorilla.com. And then coming soon to my website is 15 easy hacks to more visibility, more clients, and more income for natural health businesses. And then join us again next week, and let's keep this natural health movement going.